Welcome back. Another week of the Mush. Corey Gibson, Adam Gorney, John Garcia Jr. Week 5, we're rolling right through college football, and surprisingly, we're all getting better at the picks. If you just stay with us, at some point, we'll make you money. A couple quick shout-outs on our YouTube, a couple small comments. Robert just liked the Washington game, just a big start, 24/7. He knows that I like Washington. And our number one fan, Ben, asked why no LSU Arkansas. We just ran out of picks. Keep posting the records, everything. And did Woody win enough to retire? That guy would go 7-10 every week. Woody did not retire. He's with the Yahoo organization, still just in another side. I sent that to him, and he cackled at me.
He's like you put out the pasture, like when you say a dog went to the farm. That's what happened to Woody Womack.
Exactly. Old Yeller.
Yeah.
All right, let's just jump right into it. A couple Friday night games. We got Louisville going to North Carolina State. Louisville 3.5.
Yeah, so this is a little tricky because weekday home dogs always seem to come through here. But I was reading about this game, and I think the only way Louisville loses is if they have so many turnovers that NC State can capitalize on them. I don't see it happening. They're getting better as the season goes on here. I hate picking against weekday small home dogs. But I think Louisville is actually a pretty decent team. They can score points. And that's something that NC State really can't do. So I think this is a close game. I think NC State tries to make it a little choppy. But I'm going to lean on the offense here and take the Cardinals.
I'm close there. Tough game, like you said, given the circumstances. I'll go the other way because of those circumstances. I think Brennan Armstrong can dial it back to, 2021 when he was really good at home. They played Notre Dame tough for a half, and I think that team, if they can show up, it'll be a fun game on a Friday night. I'll take the Pack.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Louisville. When we're all coming up with these games, I wanted to go NC State. But I didn't like their schedule. The games that they lost big to some pretty decent teams, and the 3.5 line to me just is small enough where I feel comfortable taking the road team. So I will also take Louisville. All right, next up, this is a game where I'll get frustrated because all of us go cover high school football games on Fridays, and this is a great matchup. Utah going to Oregon State. Oregon State's actually 19th in the country. I didn't put that on our banner, and Oregon State is the favorite, 3.5.
Yeah, this is the game that screwed me last week because I took Oregon State, and Washington State just came out and started railing on them, and it looked ugly, and I did not like it, and that was a bad call for me. But I'm going to do the same thing again this week. I'm taking Oregon State for numerous reasons. One, I still think they're a very good football team. This could be very low scoring. Utah's defense is phenomenal. Utah's offense is not very good. They had that pick 6 on the first play against Dante Moore last week, and then they only scored 7 points the rest of the way against UCLA, who could not move the ball. I mean, Chip Kelly is this offensive genius. I hear he's one of the smartest people ever, especially if you ask him. And they did nothing. They could do absolutely nothing against Utah's defense. Nothing. So their defense was on the field almost the entire game, and Utah scored 7 points against them. So I still think Oregon State's a very good football team. They're back home. It's a Friday night game. Utah is feeling good after a big home win. Plus, the public loves Utah here, and there's a big money bet on Oregon State. So Friday night is for the Beavers. I'm taking them, and there's my second week that I'm taking Oregon State.
I'm following you this time, AG. I think Utah, there's still so many question marks about that offense, and ditto for Cam Rising, right? Will he play? Yeah. Won't he play? With one less day to prepare, in essence, with a Friday night game, and especially on the road, just can't imagine him trying to get out there. So it's going to be Johnson again. That offense looked horrible last week. They can't throw it. And I think Oregon State, good defense, maybe not an elite offense, but they're going to be able to manufacture points with balance with Martinez and Uiagalelei. So I do think Oregon State can muster close into the 20s. I don't know if Utah can, especially on the road against a pretty darn good defense. So, yeah, I'll take the Beavers as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna join you guys. I'm gonna go Oregon State. Gorney, this kind of feels like when we play like roulette. It's like the Reds got to hit at some point. Oregon State's got to hit for you at some point. So I'm gonna ride with you this week. I think this is the week for Oregon State. They always look good. They just can't always get it done. All right, we move on to Saturday. USC going to Colorado minus 21.5. This game is actually, we're gonna do a little game day live. Myself and Clint Gosgrove. So look out on YouTube. Gorney.
So last week, I think the setup was perfect for Oregon to just completely clobber Colorado. I pat myself on the back because I sort of predicted it, and it played out that way. This one gets a little more difficult, though. I'm going to stick with USC as my pick, but I don't love it. USC's defense is still suspect. San Jose State scored 28 against them. Last week against Arizona State with a really not a great offense, not really explosive at all. They scored 28 against them. So I'm sort of worried about a 45, 49, 28 game that Colorado makes interesting for 2 or so quarters. I just don't think Colorado can keep up with the scoring capabilities of USC's offense. So USC's offense is more prolific and has many more weapons than Oregon. And Oregon basically did whatever they wanted to do in that first half. I think it's a similar situation that over time, USC just outscores them and outpaces them. I hate the hook on this game. I don't love the pick either, but I'm going to take USC here.
Everything that makes you want to pick Colorado in this game, it creates another counter because you're like, well, good teams don't lose twice in a row. Good defenses don't lose twice in a row. Good offenses even don't lose twice in a row. None of that applies for Colorado. The defense is abysmal. Obviously, is down their best player in Travis Hunter, which is just a death sentence in this kind of game. But I think it's the other side of the ball. The Colorado offense just was stymied in every way by Oregon. I think USC's defense leaves a lot more to be desired, and they won't have the personal edge that maybe Oregon had going into that game. There's no maybe about it. They had a personal edge after Shiloh Sanders opened his mouth and all of that. But they do get after the passer. I think USC is like top 10 in sacks. They're usually playing with the lead. It's kind of something they're used to. So I do think Colorado will score certainly more than we saw last week up in Eugene, but I just don't see a scenario where USC doesn't get into the 40s, maybe even the 50s in this game. And I can't see Shedeur Sanders and that poor offensive line manufacturing points into the 30s. So yeah, it's a huge number in conference and where you expect Colorado to bounce back, but all of what we've seen from Colorado tells us that it might be another blowout, even though they're back at home with a great list of prospects checking it out. So yeah, I'll take USC minus 21.5, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, the only person that's probably going to call me out on this pick is Ben, our loyal listener. But my rule is always pick Colorado at home, but I just can't. They're just so lost without Hunter, and I think Gorney maybe said this. They just looked a little tired. I mean, they just I don't know. I think USC will just pack it on, and it's the same mentality as Oregon, where they're just going to keep putting on the points and try to prove something. They don't want to keep Colorado anywhere close to this game, and with that, I'll take the Trojans. One of my favorite lines of this week is Florida, number 22, going to Kentucky, and Kentucky actually gets the point. They're the favorites.
And this is actually an interesting game, probably one I'll watch too, because just don't know how good Kentucky is yet. Don't know how good Florida is, really, honestly. But if Florida comes out and plays the way they did against Tennessee, then they win the game. But Kentucky's 4-0. They've been scoring points. But let me read down this list of weakling cupcakes of extraordinaire. Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, and Vanderbilt. Like 3 of the worst teams ever. Couldn't even name 2 players. And then Vanderbilt is definitely not playing up to par. So, I think Florida is going to come in a little hot. I think it's interesting. If you look at the numbers, the pro line, the line that that Action Network uses, has Kentucky minus 3.5. So you're actually getting some value in Kentucky there at 1.5. I kind of like Kentucky here, but this could be one of those 13-10, 17-14 defensive battles that goes either way. They're at home. They have a better situation, and there's a little value there. So I'm going to take the Wildcats.
Yeah, two great defenses, two veteran transfer QBs. This has all the makings of an old school SEC type battle. And head to head, I just think I trust Devin Leary a little bit more than Graham Mertz. Although Mertz has played better than I expected at UF, I think Leary's a little bit more in control of that offense. They have a little bit more weaponry in the passing game, and they both can run the football. So I think by default, throwing them at home, 1 point doesn't seem like it's too much, though Florida likes this underdog sort of mentality, and they certainly use that against Tennessee. But this isn't the Swamp. This is up in the Bluegrass. So I think UK can handle the 1 point spread there.
Fine, Florida, you win. I'll go with you. I'm 0 for 2 with them. I don't know what to do, and no matter what I think, and I was thinking Kentucky, so therefore Florida will probably win. So I'll go.
Hey, you have the best record, so
not
with Florida though. The Gator fans they're after me, I think, because I can't pick Florida games. It's the hardest games. No matter what I do, it's the opposite. And I wanted to go Kentucky here, so fine, I'll go Florida.
Not a bad pick though. Florida 13-1 straight up in its last 14 games. 22-3 in its last 25 games. So they'd be bucking a major trend by losing this game. But with that number being just 1.5 or so, it's basically a pick 'em, and Florida wouldn't be a bad call.
We'll see. I hope it's a 1 now. Texas A&M going to Arkansas, 6.5. Did they have an injury this week? Did I see that?
Yeah, Connor Weigman is out for the year. Max Johnson is in. But, last week when Max Johnson came in, he was actually pretty okay. So I'm not too worried about it. There's some it's in the numbers are interesting in this game because the pro line has Arkansas's 4 3/10 points, whatever that means, underdogs, and they're getting 6.5. There's a little value in Arkansas here, but I don't trust Arkansas. I just don't trust them. They're 4-1 in the last 5 times playing A&M, ATS. But A&M's 10-1 straight up, and at 6.5. I mean, am I betting that they're going to only win by 4? The numbers 3, 4, 6. I'll take A&M at -6.5. I think that defense is starting to really feel themselves a little bit. I'm not sure if Sam Pittman's on a very, very hot seat and he knows it. I think that might be the case. We'll see. I just don't buy Arkansas yet. So they played really well against LSU last weekend, kind of gave it their all and still lost. I'm just going to take A&M here and kind of grind one out, maybe 24-10, 24-13.
Can see that, but look, that Auburn offense will allow any defense to feel themselves just a little bit. So I actually think the opposite. I thought Arkansas really seized momentum late in that LSU game. I thought they were going to pull off the upset until Daniels led that 5-minute drive to run it out. I really like this offense. KJ Jefferson is a true dual threat. They're pushing the ball down the field. Finally, it's been taking 3 or 4 years for that to come together, and they can still run the ball to at least keep that Aggie defense honest. And I think with the quarterback change, look, this kid's got tape, right? Johnson's got tape out there from previous years at LSU. So I think it'll be a different scenario and less of a surprise, obviously, for Arkansas, which has to play better on defense. But I think that LSU offense is really good. So I actually like the 6.5 for Arkansas. I think they keep it close. A&M probably wins in the end, but I think Arkansas's points are enough.
Yeah, I'm going to go, always my Joe take with no research. I'm going to go A&M here. Back in the Rivals Camp Series days, I actually liked Max Johnson, and I think they have a lot of weapons at A&M, and I have a feeling it's going to be 14, then Arkansas is going to come and score a late touchdown and try to do an onside kick, and I'll be sweating it out to see if they can recover or not, but I think it'll be Texas A&M by 7. And that's it. That's the take. Michigan going to Nebraska, -17.5 for the Wolverines.
Yeah, that's a lot of points on the road, but this just reeks of a 38-7 game to me. I just think Michigan finally covers a spread this year. They have not yet, if I am correct. Let me look at that quickly. The offense has not been kicked into high gear, but they go on the road for the first time. They finally play somebody, at least a name school. I mean, East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers doesn't really lift the sails too much, if you get what I'm saying. So I think they go to Nebraska. I don't think they mess around. I think they're far, far better than Nebraska. I just think 31-7, 35-7, a clear Michigan win. They don't have to score 62 or anything like that. But, every game they've played so far has been 31-7, 35-7, something like that. I think pretty much the same thing happens this weekend. The crowd will be excited for about 10 minutes. Then they'll start looking for the local beer place. So I think it's just Michigan just overwhelms them. The numbers aren't really kind of going either way here. So I'm just going to take the Wolverines and hope that they kind of deliver.
Yeah, look, Nebraska's a mess, right? The offense just can't get going no matter who the head coach is. Quarterback issues. Jeff Sims is banged up. And they don't have a lot of talent on the perimeter. So I think Michigan's going to be able to make them one-dimensional. So it's really about Michigan's offense. Can it create this distance? And I think 17.5 isn't scary enough to pick the home team in this one. So, yeah, Corum goes crazy. J.J. McCarthy's hard to get to. I mean, it would take something catastrophic for me to go Nebraska here. So, yeah, Michigan rolls.
Yeah, I agree, John. That line's not super scary. Like Gorney said, it's their first road game. I think Nebraska, I have a weird feeling they're going to go up like 10-0. Like Michigan's going to go really quiet. It's going to be really loud there. And then they're just going to just pour it on. And then Nebraska will get cold, but they'll ride the momentum of the crowd early, maybe early scores. But that I've watched that game, I've watched Nebraska a couple times this year, and it's just a tough game to watch. They're just not ready yet. They look a little lost, and Michigan will pull it out, but I think we'll all be sweating it out for about a quarter, and then we'll relax.
One thing to watch in that game, it's supposed to be 94 in Lincoln on Saturday, so depth favors Michigan. The wind, it's supposed to be super windy, 18-mile-an-hour winds, usually tends toward under bets, but I also think that favors Michigan. McCarthy can throw through the wind. Nebraska's quarterbacks can't throw at all, so I'm going to take Michigan.
I like that weather report, Gorney. I like that.
Yeah, always got to look at weather.
All right, we'll have to make a sponsored segment with the weather, All right, Georgia going to Auburn. Kind of surprising to me, at least. Only a 14.5-point favorite.
Yeah, this is what do they call this? The oldest rivalry in college football, or whatever it is.
The Deep South, oldest rivalry
in the South. Yeah,
you have to in that slow voice.
Yeah. So there's actually some value here on Auburn. 12 is the pro line. They're getting 2.5 extra points with that hook. What's strange about this line in a little bit of a way is it opened at 16 and then got bet down to 14.5, even though the public and the money sort of are favoring Georgia. So either somebody put a big bet on Auburn in the hopes that they can hang, or they're just trying to play tricky early in the week to try to get some money onto Auburn, because the way Auburn looked last week against Texas A&M, I mean, Georgia will win this game 150-0. My bet, if I probably will stay off this game just because all the numbers are all over the place. I love the under in this game. I don't think Auburn scores more than 10. And if Georgia and if the line is sort of weird and there's all kinds of dropping of the line down, maybe Georgia's offense doesn't play incredibly well. Carson Beck still hasn't, thrilled me. So this could be a 21-10 kind of game, and they sneak in. I'm going to, for these purposes, I'm just going to be the Joe and take Georgia, because Georgia could throttle them, but I wouldn't be shocked if Auburn actually sort of weirdly covered this one.
I hate agreeing with you so much in this show, but I'm right with you. It's like Colorado. You just can't manufacture the argument for Auburn from an offensive standpoint. QB shuffle's not working. They just don't have the dudes up front or on the outside to flip the field in one play against Georgia. Maybe in the backfield they do, but look, Georgia stopped the run better than anyone in the last half decade. So it's really hard to imagine Auburn manufacturing points here. And then on the other side, you're like, okay, well, maybe their defense, which has been really good, maybe they can do it. They did score a defensive TD last week, even though Jimbo Fisher was on the field. But look, this is a ball control game manager type of offense at Georgia. They're going to run it. They're going to distribute it well. Carson Beck hasn't been great. I agree with you, Gorney, but he's not turning it over a ton either. Yeah. So I think this is a boring defensive struggle, and Auburn's going to have to get creative. Now, Hugh Freeze has that in his toolbox, but it's not going to be enough in this game. This is like a 28-10 kind of game for me. So, yeah, I'll be a Joe on this one too, and I'll take Georgia on the road.
Well, you guys know I love my segment, so this is Corey's safe play of the week. I'm going Georgia. The line's fine, but I'll just go with Kirby. He'll cover it 21, and we'll have a great Saturday. But I don't think Auburn has enough. I don't know why the line is that's like at 14.5. It worries me a little bit. Like, does someone know that? I don't know, but I'll just play it safe. I'm going the Bulldogs. All right. Kansas, number 24, Kansas going to number 3, Texas, 16.5.
Yeah, this is an interesting one too, because, Texas has been playing really, really well. Kansas has also been playing well, but sort of in a different way. I don't know. So let me look at the numbers here. Let me see if there's any trends. Kansas 5-1 ATS the last 6 times they've played Texas. But Texas 17-2 straight up in the last 19 games. The numbers don't thrill me one way or another. The public is a little bit on Kansas getting the points. The value is on Kansas probably by a point or so. So that doesn't really thrill me. I'll take Kansas at 16.5. When it's under 17, it's begging you to take Kansas because you think you're going to sneak in, and Texas probably wins 41-10. I don't know. I'm not thrilled with the Kansas pick. And the other thing that I have to say about this game is that Texas is bringing in DeCorian Moore again. They're bringing in a bunch of recruits. DeAndre Carter, the Auburn commit, is going to be there. They're going to want to look good on offense. I'm actually not taking Kansas anymore. I am taking Texas.
Oh no!
I'm flipping my strategy here. All strategies are out the window when Kansas visits Texas. I like Kansas. I think they're a quality football team, but this one might get out of hand. Texas's defense is playing really, really well, and their offense is scoring enough points. So I'm going to take the Longhorns here. A lot of chalk this week.
But no rock chalk. I'll go Kansas. I'll go Kansas here. You were going through it. I'm like, man, I'm agreeing with him again. This is boring. Look, this is, like you said, everything's lining up for Texas in this game. They'll win the game. It'll probably be by double digits, but this Kansas program is different. You got to view them almost like Kansas State in that they're going to play good defense and hang around. But offensively, this is like the best third down team in college football. They've been in some shootouts, a little bit battle tested. And Texas, for whatever reason, at home doesn't dominate. They let you hang around a little bit. So I think Kansas enjoys that. And this is somewhere in the neighborhood of a 10, 11-point game at the end of the day. So I think Kansas plus 16.5 seems good for me.
Yeah, I'm probably going to regret this because I'm probably going to outsmart myself here, but I'm going to go Kansas. And because Texas, I don't think, if I did the math right, has not covered at home. They seem like to always hit the spread on the road. They've blown out all the teams at home, but they just seem to always miss the number with Rice and Wyoming. So I'll play it safe, go Kansas to barely cover. I mean, barely. But I'm going to outsmart myself here, and I'm going to pick Kansas. All right, we'll move on. Number 13, LSU going to Ole Miss. LSU minus 2.5.
Yeah, this is one of those sneaky, actually very interesting games of the week. Like, Ole Miss really just folded after halftime last week. Now, is that because Nick Saban just outsmarted Lane Kiffin and Kiffin didn't have a second trick up his sleeve? Because Ole Miss looked like they could have won that game last week. This game has gotten pretty interesting, though, and I'm going to take Ole Miss. about 8 out of every 10 bettors is on LSU, and the line has dropped under a field goal. So I don't get why. That doesn't seem to make sense to me. So somebody's coming in hard on Ole Miss. They're at home. They play better there. I'm not entirely sold on this LSU team either way right now. I also don't love the pick. I think this game could pretty much go either way. I think, let me see if there's any trends that we should be following here. If I can
Any
get
weather, any weather reports we should look out for?
Oh, I have to look at the weather too. Let me look at the weather.
It'll be
The
hot.
weather is crucial. The over is really the pick. 5 of the last 6 times these two teams have played, it's gone over. Let me look at the weather to make sure that would hold up. Oxford weather. So in between rainstorms, it will be partly cloudy and a mild breeze at 66 degrees. I'm going to take the home team. If I had to make a bet, I would bet the over in this game because LSU can score. Not sure they can stop a lot of people, and Ole Miss can score. And so I'm going to take Ole Miss, but I would prefer the over.
Yeah, the LSU defense has been one of the bigger unit disappointments, I think, in the country in 23. But that offense is humming. Jaden Daniels looks incredible. He's got a ton of receivers. The backs are finally healthy, rounding into shape. So I do think LSU is going to score points here. So, yeah, I think it'll be a shootout, just like you do, Gorney. Dart and company just ran into a literal wall in that second half. But they're kind of battle-tested, Ole Miss is. And you don't expect back-to-back duds there. So, again, kind of like that Florida-Kentucky game, if it's a similar style on both sides, I'm going to go quarterback versus quarterback, and Jaden Daniels is my pick for preseason player of the year. So I'll lay the 2.5 for LSU. But if it was 1 point higher, I don't think I would. So this is a tough game to call.
Yeah, absolutely. This is very, very tough. LSU is also like my Florida. No matter what I do with LSU, it's the opposite. But I just can't. I got to go Ole Miss here at home. It's a crazy place to play. They start tailgating at like 5 a.m. They bring the chandeliers out. They bring everything out, the whole 9, and that place will be rumbling for Jackson Dart, and they'll come down just to a field goal or maybe a touchdown. Obviously, low scoring with that spread, but give me the Rebels.
67.5 points is a lot of points, but I like it when it could be a close game because that means maybe it goes back and forth a little bit. If it was like a 17-point spread, somebody goes up 41-0 and shuts it down. But this could go back and forth a little bit. I like the over.
Yeah, the over is a good point. All right, the team that broke my heart last week, Notre Dame, going to Duke, 5.5. I actually said that game was going to come down to a field goal. I did not literally mean an extra point, but it came down to that field goal, like I promised to the viewers. So go ahead, Gordon.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because this is not the Duke team of old. But this, and there's no way to know, but does Notre Dame come out crushed or pissed off? That's really just the question. Do they come out and say, we had 10 men on the last play of the game, which I don't even get. I don't even know how that happens.
Last 2 plays.
Yeah, last 2 plays. And then, the argument that Freeman was like, oh, I couldn't run somebody on because we would have gotten a penalty. Well, wouldn't you have traded half of a yard to the goal line for another player in the game, which was sort of like that defensive end on that side, and that's exactly where Ohio State ran the ball too. So Ohio State must have seen that because they substituted that running back in for those plays. So, and I know he's the goal line back or whatever, but that's ridiculous. All that being said, this is setting up for Notre Dame to go in and win. And here's why I say this. Game day is going to be at Duke, I think. All the eyes of the world are going to be on Duke, and they're not playing this game at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Duke is still Duke. Notre Dame is still Notre Dame. I don't care that Duke won and beat Clemson in the opener. They might put up a fight here. They're a very good team, but I think Notre Dame comes out fired up and very upset about what happened last week to them. I'm going to take Notre Dame here by a touchdown or 10 points. I don't love the game. It could get tricky, and Duke might actually be better than I'm giving them credit for. But I'm going to take the Irish.
Yeah, this is my lock of the week. I just agree with you totally, Gorney. I think Notre Dame obviously gave that game away at home last week, and how could you not come back pissed off? You're on the road, and that even if you were level, like you said, all of the atmosphere and the settings, Wallace Wade will probably sell out for the first time in 25 years. All of that should get you there if you're not there already, but you should be there already. And I think from a matchup perspective, this really works for Notre Dame. These are two grinded out defenses that want to control the football on the other side, and Notre Dame's just better at it than Duke is at this point. I think they'll eliminate that running game and make Riley Leonard one-dimensional, and Notre Dame may have the best pair of corners in the country. So if that is the case, I do like the matchups for the Irish. It almost worked last week when they shut down Harrison and company, but it'll be a little bit of a different task against Duke. So Notre Dame will unleash a little bit of rage here and win something in the range of 24-10. So lock of the week, Notre Dame on the road. And I can't believe I'm taking like 10 road teams this week. It feels incredibly odd, but here we go.
It's definitely a weird week. And also we should clip that when you said it's my lock of the week, being Gorney both like this at the same time. So we'll have to see how it plays out. Look, I think Duke's a really good team. They played great against Clemson. I watched most of that game. I thought the score, Duke kind of got lucky with some of the easy, like some fumbles late, and their defense looked good. But I like Notre Dame a lot this year. I think they're very, very good. I feel like they played like double the amount of games as everyone else. So they are well polished, ready to go. Like Gordy said, they'll be fired up. The line's not too crazy. And Sam will get it done for us. South Carolina going to Tennessee. Tennessee, a 12-point favorite.
Yeah. So this is the question: does the Tennessee that can score a whole lot come out and play, or does the Tennessee that looked terrible against Florida come out and play? We don't know. I think this could be another game that gets a little tricky, could be back and forth offensively. South Carolina on the road has been good against the spread, 4-1 in their last 5. But Tennessee 6-1 in their last 7 at home. I'm going to lean Tennessee here. I don't love the game. I don't love the numbers. It's a night game at Neyland, though. I think this might get out of hand a little bit. And I'm sorry, I just don't trust Spencer Rattler on the road yet. So I'm going to go Vols.
I was just going to say, Spencer Rattler's been pretty darn good this year.
Yeah.
I know his road splits aren't as strong. Obviously, he finished the year last year on a high pace, and I think most of the receiver core is back healthy. So I think this is a big number for Tennessee. We don't know what that offense looks like. Joe Milton, up and down, huge arm, but we're asking the same questions we were asking back in high school.
Yeah.
So if you're expecting a shootout, I think that favors South Carolina just in terms of keeping it close with a dozen points to their name. So I'll take another road team because this is the week that I go over in the picks. So why not another road team? I don't think Tennessee's as good as we maybe thought they were.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go Tennessee here. South Carolina burned me hard the first week against North Carolina, and then they picked it up against Furman, and then they held in there against Georgia, and then beat out Mississippi State in a high-scoring game. And it's hard to play in Tennessee. I mean, based on the weather of Ole Miss, it's going to be probably similar of a cloudy, whatever. But Joe could throw it. The crowd will be rumbling. It's a lot of orange out there. It gets loud. And I don't know if they got healthier, but the offensive line at South Carolina in that game was not very good against North Carolina. I mean, I don't know if they revamped, they figured it out because obviously they held in there with some of the other teams. But I was happy this line was under 14 or 14.5. So therefore, I'll stick with the Vols. All right, our last pick of the week, number 12, Alabama, 14.5-point favorite going to Mississippi State.
Yeah, this is, again, a game that I'll probably stay away from. A night game in Starkville kind of gets tricky sometimes, especially for an Alabama offense that we now know none of their quarterbacks are really any good. So I don't know if they just go in there and play smash mouth. I tend to like the under in this game because they know they're going to have to rely on their defense. Mississippi State is just not very good this year. They got blown out by LSU and couldn't score against a defense that's a little suspicious. Alabama's 5-0 the last 5 times they've played Mississippi State, but the under is 10 of the last 11 games have gone under. So they're still giving too much credit to a little, a game that can kind of, be back and forth, and Mississippi State can score. As they revamp that entire offense, they just don't have the guns there. So 47.5 is an interesting number. But that means, if it gets to 47.5, my suspicion is that Alabama is covering really, really well. So I'm taking Alabama as an insurance pick. I'll take the under and then hope that those stupid cowbells stay in the trucks and the RVs, because I can't stand that they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, heck of an advantage there. Look, it's the road pick week, so I'm going to pick Alabama on this one. I think, like you said, this could be the under could hit, and this Bama team can cover 14.5. This could be a 28-3 kind of game. That Bama defense has looked good pretty much the entire year, while we all focus on quarterback and what in the world they're doing with Jalen Milroe. There's some confidence there. He showed a lot of toughness against Ole Miss to pull that one out. So I think he does the daily double in Mississippi and beats the rival Egg Bowl program as well. So Bama covering 14.5, which is crazy to say out loud after 2 weeks ago, but here we are. All the road teams, baby.
That's crazy. What a week. You guys know my Joe rules, and I'm going to stick with it right here. When in doubt, go Saban. It helped me last week, and it'll help me this week. 14.5 is I hate it. I hate everything about this game. Like Gorney said, I'm staying away from it. In the real life, we can't bet in California, and I'll just take Alabama just for the show. I'm not sure how they're going to come up with 14.5, but Saban will find a way and get it done. All right, before we wrap up the show, let's move into the lock of the week. John, you already said Notre Dame. Gorney, what you got for me? What UMass style game do we got?
Yeah, they crushed me. The Minutemen crushed me last week. They took New Mexico State to overtime. I got fired up. I thought I was going to get a little backdoor action. Didn't. They screwed up in overtime, and that was a big win for the Aggies. I think they're the Aggies. But my lock of the week this week is UCF. UCF at home. That's the lock. And here are my many reasons why. Baylor stinks. They are bad. We don't know if Blake Shapen is going to be back. It doesn't really matter. Let me just throw this stat out there for you. He's been hurt. He could be back this week. Sawyer Robertson came in his stead and is completing fewer than 50% of his passes, has 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions thrown. So that's not too good. So if Blake Shapen comes back, maybe it gets interesting. Now, after getting crushed at home, everybody's fired up in Waco. I'm not going to make a Branch Davidian joke. I would never do that. But they get crushed by Texas in Waco last week. Now they have to go back on the road as a 1-3 football team against a very prepared UCF offense. Timmy McClain is playing well. The receivers might be one of the best receiver groups they've seen this year. Kobe Hudson, Javon Baker, Xavier Townsend, RJ Harvey has 5 rushing touchdowns. This is a team that's coming off of a loss to Kansas State. Tough place to play, tough situation, coming back home, and they see blood in the water. So I think UCF wins big. Baylor cannot figure this out, can't find themselves. They'll regroup after this one, but it could get ugly in Orlando on Saturday.
I'm going to take a Friday night game here. I'm going to take BYU. They get, I believe, 1.5 against Cincinnati. Cincinnati has looked so. I think they're only like 1 and something on the year. And
Emory Jones is woof, man.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Lost to Oklahoma, lost to Miami of Ohio, beat the very intimidating Pittsburgh, and crushed Eastern Kentucky. And BYU doesn't look that bad. They got Slovis there. They not a great start. Sam Houston State. They were 14-0, but then they picked it up. They beat a pretty good Arkansas team, lost to Kansas, but they're at home. That place is another good. I think they have like that mascot that likes to dance with the cheerleaders and all that. The place will be rumbling. They get the points, and I'll take that as my lock, even though it's a Friday game, but I'll take it.
There you go.
And with that, that's the mush. Corey Gibson, Adam Gorney, John Garcia Jr. As always, please comment. I'll try to answer the questions either on the stream or in the comments section. Please follow all of our individual social media platforms. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you guys don't miss any other weeks. And we'll see you guys in week 6. Thanks.